Good afternoon, all. I will call this regular meeting of Council of the Municipality of Jasper to order for March 17th. It is 1:30 p.m. Welcome to all of Council assembled and to our administrative team. And if people wind up in the gallery, I will welcome them as well, but they're not here now. But welcome to those who are watching on our Zoom platform and may watch later on our YouTube channel. Councillors, you have today's proposed agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or other changes to be made to the agenda? If not, I would look for a motion that Council approve the agenda for today's meeting as presented. Deputy Mayor Frechette, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. We have two sets of minutes before us for approval today. I'll begin with the minutes of the regular meeting of March 3rd, 2026. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? Seeing no hands, I would look for a motion that Council approve the minutes of the March 3rd, 2026 regular Council meeting as presented. Thank you, Councillor Hall. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And we also have for approval the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of March 10th, 2026. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you know, last Committee of the Whole meeting, I was zooming in and there were some technical difficulties. Towards the end of the meeting, we had a motion number 101/26, which in the minutes are recorded as passed by 7 councillors. I'd just like to correct that. It's 6 councillors and 1 opposed, and I was for the purposes of the minutes, I was the council member opposed.
Thank you for that. If that can be so noted. If there are no other modifications to be made to the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of March 10th, I would look for a motion that Council approve the minutes of the March 10, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting as amended. Councillor Waxer, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 4, delegations, where we offer an opportunity for any member of the public present in the gallery to address Council on any matter on the agenda. We have no bodies in the gallery, so that is moot. I will move to agenda item 5, correspondence, beginning with 5.1, a requested letter of support from Habitat for the Arts, and that letter and some other material is attached to the agenda. Council wish to engage in any discussion with respect to the request, or is there a councillor prepared to come forward with a motion? Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would make the motion that Council authorize the Mayor to sign the letter of support for Habitat for the Arts.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Melnick. Does anybody wish to speak to the motion? I will just speak briefly in favor. I totally agree that we have, through the 20 months or so since the wildfires of 2024, seen, I think, quite significantly how art helps bind community together and add cohesion to our community. So I'm very happy to support the request and vote in favor of the motion. Anyone else wish to speak? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 5.2, a flag raising request from the Jasper Pride Festival Society. Again, the Material for the request is attached to the agenda. Does any councillor wish to comment on the request or make a motion? Deputy Mayor Frechette.
Yes, I would speak in support of the request from the Pride Festival group. I think Jasper has been in full support of their organization from the onset, and I think it's totally in keeping with the spirit of our community, and I think it would be an honor to accommodate that request.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Frechette. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I too support this motion. I think raising the Pride flag during Pride Week is a really meaningful way to show that our community supports a community where everybody belongs, and it reflects our shared values as a Rainbow registered organization as well. So I too support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Seeing no hands, I'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 6, new business, and we will begin with item 6.1, Director's Report from Urban Design and Standards, and that director is not here. So we will have, I'm sorry.
Mayor Ireland, I know the change from Director Sanders not being here, it throws things off a little bit, but recognizing that the Urban Design and Standards Department is actually comprised of 3 sub-areas. We have the leader of one of the sub-areas. Our housing department is going to be presenting on behalf of Director Sanders. So we have our housing manager, Leanne Pelletier, here to present.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Before you is the Urban Design and Standards Report for the period of December 2025 to March 2026. During this period, planning staff was busy advancing preparations for the transfer of Land Use Planning and Development Authority, while continuing to support updates to Parks Canada's land use policy. They also worked with the main project team of the Transportation Master Plan on the project charter and engagement planning. Staff are coordinating municipal approvals for utility applications related to new development and are further developing the street and public space use permitting process. In addition, they are formalizing addressing guidelines for new dwelling units, and final testing of the new e-permitting platform is underway. In the housing realm, work continues implementing the Housing Action Plan. To date, 74 applications have been received under the Accessory Dwelling Unit Incentive Program, with 55 funding agreements signed. Work is also underway on a catalog of pre-approved residential building designs for residents' use, including ADUs and multifamily units. And the GIS site development tool has completed its beta phase and is being finalized for public release. Under the Housing Accelerator Fund, the annual report was submitted to CMHC, and the municipality was subsequently approved to receive its second grant installment of $2.3 million. The Jasper Municipal Housing Corporation has completed a recruitment campaign with all board positions filled, and the 2025 financial audit is underway. The Connaught Below Market Housing Project continues to move forward, with construction anticipated to be completed in January of 2027. CMHC recently formally announced funding for the project in the form of a $5 million forgivable loan and $9.2 million low-interest loan. A ministerial visit and a building tour took place on March the 5th. Energy and environment staff are continuing to work on a feasibility study to prioritize actions from the Climate Adaptation Action Plan. And there are currently actually an update 3 applicants participating in the Clean Energy Improvement Program. From a staffing perspective, 1 town planner position has been transitioned to a development planning manager role with no change to the overall budget. Service activity remained steady. Staff held 20 online meetings with development applicants and responded to 136 development inquiries. As of March 11th, there are 54 active street and public space use permits and 5 event permits approved or under review. Finally, staff continue to support communications and engagement, including public engagement for the offsite levies bylaw, with a hearing scheduled for March 24th. The release of a road and sidewalk closure map, which is on the municipal website, and delivery of 3 navigating rebuild modules through the Pathfinders program. That concludes the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pelche. We'll turn to councillors. Councillor Roger.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, through you to Ms. Pelche. I was just wondering how many people are working for the department right now, and how many of those people are on temporary funding, and when does that funding end?
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Roger. I would leave that question for Director Sanders or CAO Given. Thank you.
Mayor Ireland, happy to help with that one. So Councillor Roger, again, recognizing that the Urban Design and Standards Department is comprised of 3 sub-areas. So the first sub-area is energy and environment, and it's probably easiest to sort of see these referenced in the major projects section. You can see the major projects of each sub-area listed there. So starting from the bottom is energy and environment. We have 1.5 FTE in the energy environment area, and that position has been in existence since prior to the fire. In the housing department, in the housing section of the department, we have 2 full-time positions. One is a term position that Leanne is in, which is funded by Housing Accelerator funding. And then we have the housing coordinator position that existed prior to the fire. So 2 in the housing area, one of those funded by an external grant. The third area is the development planning area, and this is the one that maybe we've referenced before as planning and design, but this is the development planning area where we have 4 town planners, 1 admin support. And overall, the department is guided by 1 director. So out of the 4 town planners, all 4 of them are currently funded by DRP or HARP funding.
And when does that funding finalize?
Mayor Ireland, I'd have to look to see what our current is. I'm just getting caught up in my mind because we are in the process of requesting an extension under the DRP program. And so I might be getting my dates crossed up. I'd just like to be able to refer to my materials. But I can say that at least two of the planner positions were some of the longest funded positions under DRP because we expected that we would need them. And we expect that development volumes will stay high. And so they are certainly ones that we're seeking an extension for. But I can find the exact dates that they're currently funded to with just a couple minutes here.
Thank you for that. As CAO Given looks through his files, if there are other questions that can be directed, I welcome that. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I have a question around the Housing Action Plan. And we have 55 signed funding agreements. That's the $30,000 incentive. Does that funding, is there a cap on it? And also, I'm curious what the department maybe projected that would be residents rebuilding needing this program.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Hall. The program has been incredibly successful, which is great. I did forecast 30 applicants over a 3-year term, and obviously we're now at 74. Half funding does allow for us to, if we underspend in one area, to fund a program. They truly appreciate that. They want to see what's working in your community. And if it's working in your community, to keep it going. So we were able to reduce some funding in other areas of our half spending. And so currently we have enough funds to fund all of those applicants. Thank you.
If I may, Mayor Ireland, and so this is so far about half the residents who are rebuilding are either in permitting stage or building. Do you anticipate another 75 out of the second half of the residents that are going to be rebuilding?
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. Through to Councillor Hall. It has dropped off a little bit since we opened the program. So I think the first rush is done. We do hope that people take advantage of the opportunity and apply. I can say, as far as net new units in the community and what this is creating, all of the half initiatives in total, not just this program, when we did our yearly reporting, we have 195 net new units in the community. So that's 195 housing units added to our community stock. That does not include rebuild. So these initiatives are proving really successful.
Before I turn to Councillor Waxer, I think CAO Given had the rest of his reply. Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Mayor Ireland. For Councillor Roger, I was able to call it up and get my dates uncrossed. And so all 4 of the town planner positions are currently approved for DRP or HARP funding until August 2027. And the municipality is having conversations with the program about an extension of a variety of different positions. And these would be some of the ones we'd be seeking extensions for.
Other questions for Ms. Pelche? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I recognized you earlier, Councillor Waxer, and then jumped over you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, and through you to Ms. Pelche. I was really pleased to see that there is 2 applications already for the Clean Energy Improvement Program. And I wondered whether the Clean Energy Improvement Program is applicable to new builds. I was speaking to someone the other day who was investigating solar panels and wondering if they could afford it. And because they didn't have it before, it wasn't included in their insurance. So I wondered if that would be something that could be shared with people rebuilding who might want to add that at this time.
Mayor Ireland, through you to Councillor Waxer. I do apologize. I'm not absolutely certain. I will look into that and reply shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Consgroup.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, and through you to possibly Bill. I'll ask Bill this. So we got DRP money to August 27th, and that's great. But being I'm new to, well, I guess we're all new to this urban designs and standards. Would you be able to give me an idea of how many people will need to run that division once, say we're down to 10 houses for the rebuild, for the fire rebuild, but just like kind of give me an idea on how many people will staff that.
Mayor Ireland, for Councillor Consgroup. So a couple things. One, let's do what we can, all of us, to really refine what it is we're talking about. Urban design and standards is a collection of 3 things. So housing probably will continue after, whether or not we have planning and development, and energy environment, very, very separate things. All of them kind of contributing to the urban design of the community, and that's sort of the thought of grouping them together. I know that Councillor Consgroup, your question was about development planning. So if we can all try to focus on calling it development planning, meaning that subpart, that's exactly the information that Director Sanders is going to provide a presentation next week. Council had previously asked for an update on the budget and some forward-looking projections for the department, and so she's currently working on that. What I will say is that, and so I don't want to steal her thunder, essentially we're going to have that detail and more next week. I'll say a couple of things based on the 2022 feasibility study that Council received. We're probably looking at a service area, sub area of development planning. See, I even have to catch myself in doing it. That is probably 4 to 5 positions total. Okay. And Director Sanders will have more detail on that. The other thing that you'll likely hear Director Sanders say, and this is maybe just a little bit of a priming for when she presents, is the answer is sort of, it depends on volumes. And obviously, we don't know the volumes that are going to be happening, and that's a bit of a moving target right now. And so when she does present her sort of forward look at that sub area and potential budget implications for it, she's going to be reflecting some uncertainty about exactly when the transition to the municipality might happen. That's uncertainty level number one. Uncertainty level number two would be, what are the volumes going to be at that time? That'd be uncertainty number two. And in any planning and development area, there are fluctuations year to year. So the municipality or parks, for that matter, who currently deliver the service, couldn't forecast when a hotel owner will decide to undertake a major renovation of their property. In that year, we would see probably a spike in planning, development approvals and approval revenue, and then some other years a decline. And so there's quite a bit of variability. So I'm sorry it's not as clear-cut an answer as I might have liked to give. Director Sanders will be presenting more on that, and she'll have more of the background, as well as some visual aids and tables to be able to help make it a little bit more clearly than I'm giving it.
Thank you.
Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Ms. Pelletier. I'm happy to see the Connaught below market housing project secure funding, and equally happy to see the funding secured for the installation of solar panels. A question about that funding. It says maximum 30% of cost. Does the remaining 70% of the cost, is that covered by the current funding, or will that 70% be part of the clean energy improvement program moving into the future?
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Melnick. The remaining 70% of the cost for the solar array was already accounted for in our existing budget. And also I'll follow up for Councillor Waxer. I can confirm that yes, the Clean Energy Improvement Program is accessible for folks rebuilding after the wildfire.
Thank you for that. And if I may, one more quick question about service trends. 5 event permit approvals. This is a new responsibility, I would take it, in the urban design and standards department. And so we're starting to see the municipality approving those permits as opposed to Parks Canada.
Mayor Allen, through to Councillor Melnick. That task previously rested with legislative services, noting the high volume of applications currently for folks looking to, builders looking to close roads and sidewalks and streets for the rebuild. It made sense that the folks that were doing the planning coordinated that.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarity for myself. Thank you.
In the absence of other questions, I want to thank you, Ms. Pelletier, for stepping in for Director Sanders. And I wanted just to end by commenting on the ministerial visit and the building tour on March 5th. Firstly, congratulations to staff. It is never an easy job to coordinate federal and provincial ministers for any sort of gathering in our community. So that in itself is to be applauded. But the visit and the building tour was, I found, so beneficial. And congratulations to you for all the work that you have done. That building is really moving along well and going to be so appreciated by the community. So my appreciation to you for your part in orchestrating that and giving us the tour. If there are no further questions for Ms. Pelletier, I would look for a motion to receive the report for information. Councillor Hall, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 6.2, capital budget carry forward request. This comes, oh, I'm sorry. Oh. What we have on the agenda is different than what is on my screen, but I understand. So a capital budget carry forward request comes forward by way of recommendation from Committee of the Whole at its last meeting on the 10th of March. So if they're, well, subject to any remaining questions that councillors may have, I would look for a motion to approve the carry forward capital list of incomplete 2025 projects to the 2026 capital budget as presented. Deputy Mayor Frechette, thank you for that motion. Is there any debate? I'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And that takes us to agenda item 6.3, wastewater treatment plant primary clarifier repair RFP award. Again, I believe this comes forward by way of recommendation from Committee of the Whole, and there was a presentation last week regarding this. So subject to any further questions that councillors may have, I would look for a motion in this regard. Councillor Roger.
Move that council award the request for proposal for the wastewater treatment plant primary clarifier rake arm replacement for an amount not to exceed $717,000 to Ovivo Water Inc. as the highest evaluated proponent.
Thank you for that motion. Councillor Roger, is there any debate? I will call the question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Conscrewed.
That's 717. Wasn't there some sort of discussion on whether it was 718? And does anybody remember that? And if not, carry on. I just hate to see it getting not voted on because of a number. But anyways, if nobody else can remember, then
It should be 18.
Mayor Ireland, Councillor Congre's memory is correct. There was a discussion about that, and this is the motion that was as passed. Utilities Manager Vidal has confirmed that it should be 718. So $1,000 difference. Maybe we could squeeze them for the extra $1,000, but probably better that council approves the motion as was intended in the RFP.
I'll amend the motion from 717 to 718,000.
Thank you for that. We can accept that as a friendly amendment. If there are no other hidden gems from Councillor Conscrewed, I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 6.4, Parking Authority Bylaw update, and I understand that will be presented. Sorry, Mr. Given, are you going to introduce that or just turn it over?
Well, Mayor Ireland, I can speak to it. Again, this did come forward at committee, and so council has seen it before. I did want to just jump in to note that at committee, there was a numbering issue, which has since been corrected. And at the committee, there was direction that the parking stall value should also include the cost of signage. So you'll see that 5.1.1.8 is highlighted in the attachment, where it now says parking signage, pavement markings, and traffic control devices. So that's been added to the costs that are used to calculate the cost of a stall.
Thank you for that. Are there any further questions regarding the Parking Authority Bylaw update? Well, unfortunately, I have a couple, and I regret that I didn't see these earlier. My concern is that the opening clause 1.2 rescinds the previous bylaw and establishes a parking authority, which I assume means that the previous parking authority is gone with the old bylaw. And I'm just wondering about transitional provisions and particularly if there is money in a bank account, it should transition to the new parking authority. And if there are outstanding amounts owing to the existing parking authority from developments that are underway and people haven't paid, I just want to make sure that we capture with appropriate transitional funding that those aren't just lost somehow and somebody takes the position, well, you've rescinded that bylaw. I'm not captured by the new one because my application was earlier. So I just wonder whether anyone has addressed that, the possibility of the need for transitional provisions.
Thanks very much, Mayor Ireland. So you've sort of hit on something that we had a bit of a discussion about as administration. The term parking authority and what this bylaw actually establishes, there is no different bank account, there is no incorporation, there is no entity other than the Municipality of Jasper. So we did debate a little bit about if this is the right structure and whether it was time to excise the concept, to get rid of the concept of a parking authority, because it makes it sound like it's a thing in this bylaw. But in fact, there is no separate corporate structure or separate entity. This bylaw essentially uses the concept of an authority to establish the fact that the municipality has the right to do this. You'll see under 3.2, so section 3 is parking authority. 3.1 establishes the parking authority. 3.2 designates the CAO as being responsible for the management and operation of the parking authority. And I can tell you that in my responsibilities, I have directed the Director of Finance and Administration to collect parking authority contributions as required under the bylaw without setting up an independent corporate structure. So Council has created this process, has directed me to be responsible for it, and I'm using the Municipality of Jasper sort of corporate functions to deliver it.
Right, I appreciate that. Are there amounts outstanding under the 2017 bylaw?
Mayor Ireland, there may be development applications that were in process. To my recollection, to my knowledge, we don't send them send those amounts owing or expected under any particular letterhead per se. It doesn't come as a bill from the parking authority or the 2017 parking authority. It comes as a expectation from the Municipality of Jasper that someone should pay their contribution under this bylaw. We have a number of other bylaws where there are fees and charges associated where those bylaws are updated, and a similar provision to rescind the old bylaw comes at the same time. And we haven't had, as far as I know, we haven't had any difficulty collecting funds under any of those other bylaws using the similar idea of saying in the new law, the first step of the new law is to get rid of the old law. And we've never had any problems implementing that.
All right, thank you for that. My only other observation is that under 4.1, we have eliminated the possibility of philanthropic donations to our parking authority because you must fall under that category. Not that I expect there's going to be an overwhelming surge of people who want to give money, but it seems that we have limited that opportunity.
Mayor Ireland, the municipality already has other avenues to accept philanthropic donations. In all seriousness, it's rarely used, but is sometimes used, where the municipality actually under Canadian tax law has the ability to give a charitable donation receipt. As you said, there's not a lot of people lining up to give the municipality a charitable donation, but it does happen from time to time. And it is a vehicle, a tool that we've used to help support other organizations like the skateboard park or others. So the fact that it's missing from this bylaw doesn't mean that somebody who wished to make a philanthropic donation towards future parking needs has no avenue of recourse. We'd gladly accept it, and we could even probably give them a charitable donation receipt.
All right, we'd find a place to park their money. All right, if there are no further questions, I would look, oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Waxer, go ahead. Or are you prepared to give the motion for first reading? If you are, go ahead.
That council read for the first time bylaw number 277, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Jasper in the province of Alberta to establish the Municipality of Jasper Parking Authority 2026.
Thank you for that motion. Is there any debate? Seeing no hands, I'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And I would look for a motion for second reading if there's a councillor prepared for that. Councillor Waxer, go ahead.
That council read for the second time bylaw number 277, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Jasper in the province of Alberta to establish the Municipality of Jasper Parking Authority 2026.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Waxer. Again, seeing no hands signifying debate, I'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 6.5, Memorial Bench and Tree Program. Again, coming forward to council by way of recommendation from Committee of the Whole. Are there any further questions for administration regarding the proposed program? Councillor Waxer?
I'm just looking to find the rate sheet, but I am still struggling with the rate sheet that was included in the package because I'm not sure it offers clarity about what the costs are. As I looked at it, it seemed that the original purchaser of the bench bore the full cost of the bench, no matter how long they had their plaque on it, and that they paid in, and I haven't got it in front of me at this exact moment, but they pay a higher price for for their plaque than the person who puts a plaque on whose plaque might replace their plaque. So for the same period of time. So I was curious about why the plaque difference and whether there's potential to amortize the cost of the bench across the life of the bench, that if someone had their plaque on for 15 years, they might pay a greater proportion of the original cost of the bench versus. And there may be good reasons, but why we would launch the program that way, but it wasn't clear to me in reading through.
Thank you for those observations, Councillor Waxer. I see your hand, Councillor Roger. Is there anyone on administration that can respond to Councillor Waxer?
Mayor Ireland, I can on behalf of administration. So there was discussion about this at the committee meeting last week. I think Director Donaldson identified that within her group there had been some discussion about this as well. And so, and appreciating that the rate schedule was on the committee agenda and isn't here. If it's okay with everyone, I'll just share it so I can reference that. So I'll share that on screen. And I believe you can see the rate sheet. So what Councillor Waxer is referring to is you'll see here that there's the cost of a bench, $3,025. And then there's a maintenance fee associated with that new bench. So a person can buy a new bench and they're required to pay a maintenance fee of either 5, 10, or 15 years for the upkeep of that bench. And then there is a existing bench maintenance fee, which is a little bit higher. I think maybe recognizing that the benches may need more maintenance in the future. But there is the cost of a plaque on a new bench of up top here of $730 or $735, reflective of different sizes. To place a plaque on an existing bench is only $350. So I think that that's the, if I'm hearing Councillor Waxer right, that's sort of the question is, why is it different if it's going to be presumably a new plaque recognizing someone or something different in the future? Why is that new plaque only $350 when a new plaque the first time the bench was installed was $730? So I do remember Director Donaldson saying there was a bit of a discussion about whether the new bench maintenance fee and plaque fee, whether there should just be one list of maintenance fees and one cost for a plaque. So if council wished to amend the rate schedule to eliminate the description of plaque on new bench, and removing new bench from that section, it would just say then plaque 3x7, $730, or 3x8, $735, and you could delete the row plaque on existing bench, $350. And this would harmonize the cost of a plaque, whether you're putting on an old bench or a new bench, at either $730 or $735, rather than having some lesser price for a presumably new plaque on an old bench in the future.
Thank you for that, CAO Given. Councillor Waxer, did you have any follow-up?
I guess the supplementary question I had is it fair for the person who purchases the bench but only wants it there for 5 years, that the person taking on the 5-year-old bench pays nothing but the first, and maybe has it for 15 years, the other person, the original purchaser, and there may be a good reason that we have it that way, but I just wondered if it would be perceived as unfair to the public.
Thank you for that. Could you put that screenshot back up, please? And maybe expand it. So could I ask you, Councillor Waxer, just to clarify which items cause you concern?
As I read it, it looks like if you were to initiate a new bench, you would pay $3,025, as well as a $50 administration fee, potentially another $900 for the concrete bench base, as well as the $125 for the first 5 year, or I'm not sure if that's per year or for all 5 years. But then if you only get it for 5 years, your plaque would be removed and the next person would only pay, now if we amend it, but would only pay 300 and something to put a plaque on that same bench, and they wouldn't absorb any of the other costs. Though I'm not saying it's incorrect, but I recognize that benches can have a very emotional element to them, and that it's important. I just wanted to be comfortable in defending our fee structure.
Thank you for that. Councillor Roger.
Thank you, Mayor Arlen. And that was pretty much exactly what I was going to comment too. It seems like if somebody wants a bench for 5 years and pays all this money, $5,000 or something, and then they have no more funds and they want to bail out, the next guy can get in there for $350, which doesn't seem right at all. And the second thing is that I remember Director Donaldson also commented on that when I brought it up last week, is that to put a plaque on a bench shouldn't cost 700 and some odd dollars. Surely there's stores at Edmonton or places that make plaques that we could talk to. And my guess is that's extraordinarily high for a plaque, and it's going to make people upset, I think, when they find out that they have to pay that much. We should do some research and find out what plaques actually cost in the world if we haven't done it properly already.
Sorry, I'll let Mr. Given respond first. I presume some research must have been done to come up with those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor Island. So, without being the one that did the research, I know that Director Donaldson said that the way they came up with $730 and $735 and the sizes of 3x7 and 3x8 was because they did the research. So we're talking about custom made, not just inscribed, but usually if you've looked at the ones that are out there, they're probably cast bronze, custom plaques. So I presumably, we would do the same, and they didn't come up with the sizes 3x7 and 3x8 and those dollar values out of thin air. So I believe the research has been done. And I think if council is uncomfortable with the fees and would like to see more of the cost of a bench accrue to the second person who has the bench, totally within your right. That's why the fee schedule is here. And if council wanted to change or reduce the fees, or maybe reduce the upfront fee for the first person who buys the bench, but then have the existing bench fee, which is currently NA, no charge, for an existing bench. Maybe you spread some of that cost, the $3,025 of a new bench. Maybe you make it $2,000 for the first person that purchases it and $1,025 for the second person who uses that bench. So you certainly have the ability to address fairness however you like. And I'm very confident that administration and the team in operations and utilities has done the research and the calculations, because it isn't just the purchase of a plaque and getting it here. It would also be sending out staff to take apart the bench, screw it in, whatever that goes. And we don't pay people, minimum wage to do that. So all of those costs would obviously be included in the costs that are here in the fee charge. The intent being from administration that if somebody wishes to make this kind of memorial, it should be a user pay system rather than a taxpayer subsidized system.
Thank you, Mr. Given. Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. I'm curious if you had prices before this, like what a plaque cost before this pricing schedule came out. And also I'm wondering if you, administration, has given it a 15-year as the max, because that's how long a bench, that's a lifespan of a bench.
Mayor Ireland, for Councillor Hall, without the benefit of Director Donaldson being here, I can't speak to that, but presumably, there's probably some estimate about the likely lifespan of this type of asset. And in terms of the plaques previously, I don't have that information. We have sort of paused this program over the last couple of years of accepting new benches because it wasn't formalized. And that was a part of the problem. There was no consistency. There was no established program that had the level of clarity that's proposed here. And so administration wants to ensure that if we continue to do this, that's the other thing too, is that we could have discussed last week. There's no requirement for the municipality to have this kind of program. We could just not accept these types of donations. This is operating under the assumption that it's an established thing that happens in Jasper and that council would likely want to continue, and that everybody would benefit from more transparency and more consistency. So I can't speak to the cost of plaques before, but I'm sure that would have been at least would have been a breadcrumb for us to figure out who to call to find out what a cost of the plaque is today.
One other point, I know Parks Canada does the same kind of thing. Have we verified with them what they charge?
Mayor Ireland, Councillor Rogers is right. I think there is a similar program with Parks Canada. And I have a sneaking suspicion that's probably where the municipalities program came at the time of incorporation, was probably continued from whatever Parks used to be doing. I can't speak to whether the Operations and Utilities Department discussed this with Parks or whether the fees are similar. That's something certainly administration could find out.
Councillor Conscrute.
So if I buy a bench for $3,025, is that not my bench at the end of my term? could I sell it to the next person, or like being that, we're talking about what's fair, or the person that pays the 3,025 and then pays the 5, 10, or 15 year maintenance fee, and then somebody else moves in, buys the $700 plaque. Theoretically, if that person that owns the bench, if it's theirs, if they bought it, they could take it, but then you got the concrete base. So then there's obviously going to be some stipulations that the municipality does not want that person to take the bench. But yeah.
Go ahead, CAO Given.
Yeah, Mayor Ireland, to Councillor Kongsrud's question. So I don't believe at this time the program is set up in a way that would allow somebody to sell the bench on their own or sort of remove it. I believe once the bench is purchased, it becomes the property of the municipality. If council wanted us to explore a program that would allow people to either remove the asset at the end of the contractual arrangement or for them to be able to recoup some cost by reselling it, that's something we could do. It isn't currently a part of the proposed program. If council wanted to send us a way to redo the program or to build in a new idea like that, that's something that's possible.
Any other comments? Questions? Councillor Hall.
Not a question, just a thought. I wonder who would not go for the 15-year duration. It makes the most sense that a person would pay for that. If it's the same price to start up, it's not much different for the maintenance. That's the only difference is in the maintenance fee between that 375 and 125. If you're going from 5 years to 15 years, is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Given.
Mayor Ireland, while council's contemplating, I couldn't quickly find information from Parks Canada, but I do see that the town of Banff has a similar program. And I get to Schedule D of their fees and charges bylaw. So under Schedule D of the Town of Banff Fees and Charges Bylaw, the Banff Bench Program, a new dedication at an approved site, so a new bench. They have two different charges, presumably for different styles of bench. You can get a Cascade bench or a Rundle bench. The Cascade bench is $4,398. The Rundle bench is $2,958. A dedication renewal, I'm not quite sure what a dedication renewal is, but it's presumably renewal, $3,298 for a Cascade bench or $1,874 for a Rundle bench. And there's a second dedication plaque, which they list as an on-request fee. So it looks like our charge for the bench of $3,000 plus a plaque of $730 is slightly less, sort of in the ballpark with what Banff would charge. Presumably you get a plaque with that new site. So, we'd be at about $3,700, $3,800 for a new bench with plaque. And Banff appears to be in that sort of 4,000, well, depending on type of bench, 4,300 or 2,900. So we're right in the ballpark.
Deputy Mayor Frechette.
Yes, just in part of that equation, though, CEO, given, do they not mention a renewal fee? What is that, you suppose, speaking to? Is that to the subsequent bench user? Will they have to pay a $3,000 charge on top of the schedule for maintenance and annual renewal fees?
Mayor Ireland, for Councillor Frechette. This is what administration does at their own risk of using quick resources to try to find information and answer council questions, is you tend to cause more questions. So I wouldn't be in a position to comment on how BAMP's program works or the details of BAMP's program because I just Googled it. So being completely transparent for council, you had questions about what are the charges from somebody else. I was able to find that quickly, but I can't speak to the details of how they operate their program. We certainly could find that if council wanted administration to conduct a review of other memorial bench programs and provide an overview and comparison of the proposed program with BAMF or with Parks Canada or with other municipalities. That's absolutely something we could do. We should probably take some time away from the microphone and off camera to go and do that properly.
All right, as councillors considered the issue without a motion, my inclination is that the proposal is not unfair. If somebody wants a memorial plaque in the first instance, they have a choice. They can go new or they can wait until there's an old one available. The perspective that I'm prepared to take is that this should be no cost to the municipality. So how do we really amortize the cost of a bench? If we're the ones that have to go out and buy the bench, then the one that wants a new bench pays for it, pays for the plaque, or they, if there's one available, pay a lesser amount for an existing bench that won't last as long, presumably. I'm not sure what we have for a replacement, whether it will just depend on the bench and how weathered it gets, or whether at the end of 15 years it has to be replaced in any event. But I don't see it as an unfair situation, because when you first come into the program, if there's an expired plaque on a bench, you can have it for the lower price, or you can enter in with new, and all the information that you need to make that decision is available. Councillor Roger.
Thank you, Mayor Arlen. I think the solution would be, like Wendy was just alluding to, is the 5 years is too short, because in 5 years you've got probably a very good bench, beautiful bench, and somebody's going to pick it up for $350. If we made the requirement that all benches were 15 years, at the end of 15 years, whoever paid for it in the first place has got their money's worth, and they shouldn't really care after then what happens. The bench may need to be replaced. So I think if we made that as a requirement, then it would solve the problem here, because I don't think it's fair the way it is. I certainly wouldn't want to vote for it the way it is.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, and I agree with Councillor Roger. It's only an extra $250 to go from 5 years to 15 years. So I can't imagine anybody would take the shorter time. And I think this is a fair program as well. So 15 years, if you have to get the concrete base, it's around $5,000 divided by 15 years over 15 years is, I think it's a worth it.
CAO Given.
Yep. Mayor Ireland, just as so certainly no comment on what direction council wishes to go, but in terms of assisting council in figuring out a direction, it sounds like there are some questions and some different directions you might like to see, and your choices would be either to maintain the program as it is and amend the fee schedule today, so you could eliminate a bunch of things. And sort of, so if you wanted to eliminate the potential for a 5-year fee or a 10-year fee, you could delete those. You could say that the cost of a new bench is $3,000. So right now, if I actually here, maybe this will be easier for everyone. So you could make changes to the schedule today, which is totally within your power. Or you could send administration away to make changes and bring it back. Either of those paths is possible. But just for illustration, if council wanted to, you could say the cost of a new bench is $3,025 plus $50, just roll it into one fee, plus $730 for a plaque, plus 15 years of maintenance for $375, and you pay one fee and you get all that, and there's no other options. Like, you could amend the rate schedule to say just that by deleting some of the other rates. And that would essentially say that you buy a bench, it's there for 15 years, and at the end of 15 years, we return your plaque to you. And somebody else can buy a new bench. You know, again, presumably the bench would be nearing the end of its lifespan at that point. So again, if you wanted to, you could amend the rate schedule by deleting, you know, the things that you think are irrelevant, or you could direct us to amend the rate schedule and bring back a new proposal to committee of the whole. Either of those sort of allows council to make the changes. Again, this is your program that we're asking you to approve. It's not administration's program, and we're happy to work with you either way. We can do it at the table today, or you can send us a way to make those changes and come back.
Thank you, Mr. Given. Councillor Consrud.
Okay, so if I remember, I don't remember the material that Director Donaldson said she was making out of, but I feel like, if I remember, what they were going to be made of is going to last longer than 15 years. Like, I'm thinking, like, at the time, I'm thinking like indefinitely. And if people are paying a maintenance fee to have them maintained, like if they're getting painted and everything, at the end of 15 years, if they're not ready to dispose of, there's a bench that theoretically has been well maintained. If I'm coming in to buy a memorial bench, and I have to just buy the plaque, that'll make it pretty I don't think we should have to buy the bench again. I got more questions than answers, so I think maybe it's best discussed another time. Thank you.
Councillor Frechette, Deputy Mayor Frechette.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I wonder, we are going to have a presentation next week from Director Sanders. And my understanding is we have a complete comprehensive review going on now regarding street architecture, benching, bicycle racks, etc. I wonder, when I hear terms of 15 years for a bench, I think that really depends on what it's made out of. If it's made out of plastic materials, then yeah, you may well be talking 15 years. But if you're talking wrought iron, their bench is 300 years old in Quebec City. So, I mean, I think there's equations here that I think are speculative. I don't think they're firm. And generally, I'm not really sure about the process for memorial benching. I mean, do we run the memorial benching program, or do people who want to buy a bench, can they just go and put a bench somewhere? I'm not sure who's running the program as to length of time, contracts, etc. Is it not reasonable if we run the program, we tell you where the bench is, and we own it, and you will pay a fee to put your plaque on it, and eliminate the need of somebody having to spend $5,000 to put a bench in. We own the bench. It's part of our memorial bench program, and this one is in this location. Or as Councillor Waxer was saying, it's an emotional thing. Is it something that you would like your loved one to be facing a certain direction because that's what was important to them? There are a lot of variables to this program that I'm not really sure why they've been weighted the way they are.
Mayor Island, I think one, if we go back to sort of the foundational ideas here, nobody can place an item on public property without the municipality's approval. right? For matters of risk and liability and consistency and all those other sort of things. So, so who owns it? If it's on our property, either we own it or we tell somebody to get it off our property, or we have to create some system to allow them to have something on our property. And so that's the foundational idea. People can't just go and install a memorial bench on municipal property. It'd be like me coming to anybody else's house and deciding I wanted to install a memorial bench on your front lawn. You'd probably say no. But if I got agreement from you and we had some terms and conditions around how I wanted to put my memorial bench on your lawn, maybe you'd be okay with that. And that's what we're talking about establishing here. And so the municipality is, needs to be clearly in charge as we're talking about assets on public property. And what's proposed is a way of doing that. And council can set whatever sort of direction or guidelines, whether you want to do that at all or not. And if you do want to do that, what should the terms of the program be? I mean, council could say, we don't do memorial benches, we only do memorial trees. That's a policy choice that's available to you. And so one, the municipality is in charge when the assets are on public property. And what's in front of council is a way of controlling that in a way that is clear for everyone and knowable. So somebody can say, what are the rules around the memorial bench program? And administration can say, here they are. This is what council approved. What are the costs of the memorial bench program? Here they are. This is what council approved. But that council approved is the part that obviously identifies that all of you need to be satisfied with whatever that program looks like. Go ahead.
If I may have a subsequent question. And so the reason I'm curious about this is if I look at memorial benching historically in Jasper, we have historical benches that are made of log. We have historical benches that have got wrought iron feet and cedar slats. We have them made out of numerous different kinds of metals and cedar slats, etc. The cohesiveness is not there. So is that the result of people who pay the $3,000 for the bench? Do they say, we want this bench, we want a log bench, we want it facing Pyramid Mountain, and we want it in this location? So if all of those variables are left to the purchaser, what kind of extra workload does that make for administration and council to adjudicate, yes, we allow for cedar benches and we allow for log benches and you can face east or whatever. And how many of these benches do we end up having that they all look different? I guess the rationale that I would put forward is, why wouldn't we own the memorial benches? And we would just adjust our rate fee for putting your plaque on it. This way, all the other decisions are out of the public's hands. We now, as an asset, we own them, because you're right, we do own them, they're on our land. And this is the standard that we use. And this is what they look like, and this is where they sit. As opposed to this helter-skelter approach. I realize the ones outside of the community that are, I think, by and large, run by the Friends of Jasper, if I'm not mistaken, the log ones and whatnot that you see around Lake Edith and that and whatnot are in keeping. But in town here, we have a bit of a smorgasbord of benches, it seems to me.
Go ahead, CEO Given.
Mayor Ireland, I think Councillor Fressette's exactly right. There is a bit of a mixture, and that's historic nature. I think there's probably a memorial bench program run by somebody before the municipality existed, would be my guess. I'm looking around the table, more of you would probably know, but I have a suspicion that the idea of memorial benches placed in the Jasper town site predates the existence of the municipality. So yes, there's a smorgasbord. What's being proposed here is to start to bring some order to that and consistency. Administration's proposal is explicitly that all memorial benches, trees, and associated plaques are and remain the sole property of the municipality. So that's in the ownership and control section of the proposed program. So all of those other criteria in terms of placement, style, would be at the discretion of the municipality. So administration identifying a style that would be consistent with the direction that we're looking to go of the overall streetscape, and then providing those options to people and say, this is the bench or benches. I won't presume to know exactly where urban design and standards and operations would be going, but these are the approved bench type or types. Take it or leave it. It absolutely wouldn't be a choose your own adventure for folks to be able to choose their own bench and choose where they want to place it. That wouldn't be a part of the intent of the program, is not a part of the intent of the program, and is not allowed under the program criteria.
Sorry to monopolize the question here. So I wonder, again, if it wouldn't be beneficial for council to wait till Director Sanders makes her presentation. I know there is a program that is being fleshed out now between operations and urban planning and standards. And if this couldn't be an adjunct to the direction that they may be going, in a sense of getting some cohesiveness in what we have, and maybe revisit the structure, the pay structure altogether, where if we're going to own the asset and we're going to place them where where we want them to be, and we've decided on an architectural motif for the street architecture, that may streamline things, if not make it cheaper. To me, $5,000 to install a bench is a lot of money. But to Councillor Waxer's point, it's an emotional thing, and maybe people don't view it that way. But I think it would help in adding some cohesiveness to it, because councils change, viewpoints change, and I think it would be a good policy to have in terms of keeping that cohesiveness going forward.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. I think this program does bring cohesiveness to what we're trying to do, and I would be in favor of a motion that supported this fee structure, combining the administration, the bench, the plaque, and eliminating the 5 and 10 year structure. I would be in support of a motion for that. I'm just curious if we also would be interested in eliminating the 5 and 10 year maintenance option for the trees. Is there an option for that? Nope, that might not. Yes, no, never mind. So I would be in support of that motion and prepared to make that motion.
I would welcome a motion.
One last thing is, after the 15 years, there should be a renewal of some sort for the existing person. I don't know if it should be indefinitely, perhaps another 15 years, whatever the going rate is. A lot of people, I think, want this to be forever, so you shouldn't take that away.
Councillor Waxer.
I'm happy with Councillor Hall's motion, except for the discrepancy in the plaque cost, from the new plaque being $350 and the original plaque being, and I think CAO Given recommended that come out. Am I correct?
Go ahead, CO Given.
Yeah, Mayor Ireland, maybe I'm trying to keep pace with council's discussion here. So maybe it would be helpful if I put something on screen to see if it's where council is going. It's sounding like there's a desire to have a simplified fee structure that's a little bit clearer. And so I'll see if what I am sharing.
If you can wait a moment, Mr. Given.
Sure, absolutely.
You shouldn't have to do the interpretation right now as council debates this. I appreciate that you've been trying to keep up, but I would suggest perhaps we take a recess. Somebody can craft a motion, and then we will have something before us to debate, and it won't be on administration. This is a uniquely council matter to resolve. And I don't want to put the burden on you to try and guess what the wording might be. So I'm going to call a recess. Councillor Hall, it sounds like you are about to make a motion. How much time do you need? Okay, we'll have a recess for 10 minutes. It's now 2:45, so we will reconvene at 2:55. I will call us now back to session. We are, I think, 4 minutes past the time that we said we would reconvene, but those 4 minutes have been put to good use, I think. So, Councillor Hall, I understand that you now have a motion.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. I do have a motion which will reflect, I believe, what CAO Given is going to share on screen. And my motion is that Council approve the Memorial Bench and Tree Program as amended to reflect what's shown on the screen.
Sorry, Mayor Allen, just updating.
And for clarity, the amendment is to the schedule, the fee schedule, and not to the policy.
Yes, absolutely. So a new bench would be $41.85. That would include the plaque and a 15-year maintenance program. A bench renewal after that 15 years, that resident could spend another $450 to get that bench again for another 15 years. If at that point they do not want the bench anymore, anyone else could come in and put a plaque on that used bench for $11.85.
Is there any debate on the motion? Does anybody wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Hall. Thank you for the work to get to a fee schedule. I just would like to understand the 1185, the breakdown of that, recognizing that the bench will be deemed to be usable for another 15 years. In other words, it's not a replacement of an existing bench, but the items that are in that 1185, I assume, is a new plaque and the installation of the plaque and a maintenance fee.
Yes, that is correct.
Councillor Waxer.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to CAO Given. Did we stipulate, it flashed up so quickly, does it stipulate a 15-year time frame just so that we don't end up people believing they've got an forever period of time?
Mayor Ireland, that was my understanding, yes.
So the initial purchase would be for a 15-year period and a one-time renewal for another 15 years is the intent of the motion. Any other debates on the motion? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Thank you all for that. That takes us to agenda item 6.6, Jasper Municipal Housing Corporation Director selection. I think, again, this comes forward by way of recommendation from Committee of the Whole, or
Mayor Ireland,
go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor Ireland, there was a motion on this topic at Committee of the Whole last week, actually directing administration to bring forward this report. So it is a new report, and so I'll do a brief overview because we've dealt with a similar subject recently. So on March 3rd, Council, acting as a shareholder, filled 4 of the 5 expiring director positions on the JMHC board. At that time, Council only filled 4 out of the 5. On March 10th, committee discussed the issue and directed administration to bring forward a recommendation on to fill the final vacancy, so essentially filling that 5th position. And so this is that report. I won't go through the background. Suffice to say that administration received a number of applications, and we weighed those applications against the approved matrix, this board skills evaluation tool that had been previously approved by council. And so administration is recommending the appointment of one individual that has already been previously scored on that matrix for a one-year term from March 2026 to March 2027. That individual is Irish Caesarian. Apologies to Irish for butchering her last name. So that's the recommendation from administration. We had a number of applicants. We were able to score them using the board evaluation matrix, and administration would recommend that the fifth position could be filled by Irish. Council does have alternatives. You could choose to appoint a different individual. You could choose to maintain that one vacancy and run with essentially a board of 6 rather than 7. Or you could direct administration to re-advertise to seek new applicants. But administration's recommendation is that we have recently advertised. We had a number of applicants that had been scored using the tool, and Irish would be the next in line, the next highest evaluated candidate for the board.
Thank you, Mr. Given. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Roger.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. When you say March to March, should we not have a specific date in March? And it would have to be from today on, I presume.
Mayor Ireland, I think we would assume from, that's a reasonable point. The administration did include a specific date. And so if council wished to specify, by all means, I don't believe we did that in the previous motions. The terms of the last directors expired March 1st, so administration would likely just run with that similar sort of expiry of March 1st of the whatever the expiry year was.
Any other questions? If not, I would look for a motion. Councillor Roger.
Thank you. Make the motion that council representing the municipality of Jasper, sole municipal housing corporation shareholder, appoint the following individual to the JMHC Board of Directors for a one-year term ending on March 31st, 2027. Irish Cancerian.
You did say March 31st, but I think the other ones all expire March 1st, do they not? So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll amend that to a term ending March 1st, 2027.
Thank you. Any debate on the motion? And I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed, and that motion could not have come on a better day.
Yeah.
That takes us to agenda item 6.6, Municipality of Jasper 2026-2030 strategic priorities. And I take it CAO Given, you will introduce that.
Yes, I will, Mayor Ireland. This is another new item that hasn't previously been to committee. It is a result of a recent council workshop and so coming direct to council. As you all know and participated in October of last year was the municipal election. And following that election, the new council was sworn in on October 24th. In February of 2026, council participated in a facilitated strategic planning session with Tracy Lawrenson of Civic Excellence in order for this council to establish its strategic priorities for the organization for the course of your term and actually slightly beyond out to 2030. Strategic priorities are really the framework that council establishes to guide the organization's decision-making and direction over the course of your term. And council has identified 6 focus areas with a number of strategic priorities under each focus area. Council and the public will be familiar with strategic priorities. They show up in every administration RFD where we identify how a recommendation or an issue relates to council's priorities. And so they really are of fundamental importance for the operation of the municipality and certainly for administration getting clear guidance on council's wishes. The 6 strategic priorities that were established are all considered within the broader context of the community's overall recovery from the wildfire. So that's one important note. Council was explicit in the idea that while there isn't a recovery specific priority, all of these priorities need to be reflective of where the municipality and the community is at a given time in our process through recovery. And they all in fact do support recovery of the community largely. So the 6 focus areas are community connection, housing, climate and energy preparedness, governance and organizational excellence, economic health, and financial stewardship. Mayor Island, I know that the strategic priorities is in the package. I'm happy to discuss them, but obviously these are council's work product. Administration is simply bringing them forward on your behalf so that they can be considered here at the council table. It is a requirement under the Municipal Government Act for council to establish priorities, and that can only be done at the council table. But if council wishes, you do have alternatives. You could choose to direct administration revise the strategic priorities and approve them as amended here today. You could direct administration to take them away, make changes, and bring them back. You could choose that you need to go into another strategic planning session of some kind to review and amend them and then bring them back to a future council meeting. So you have a variety of options available to you. So administration will bring them to the council table so you can have that discussion about whether you feel like you're in a position to adopt the priorities that you developed just in February. Mayor Island, happy to support council in the conversation as you see fit.
Thank you, CAO Given. Councillors, any opening comments with respect to the strategic priorities? Councillor Frechette.
Thank you, Mayor Island. No, I think that we spent a good amount of time fleshing out our strategic planning priorities in Banff, and I've had a chance to go through them again, and I really think that we put together a comprehensive list of items to focus on in our next term. I'm pleased with the end presentation as I see them here.
Thank you. Other comments? I have a number of comments, so I will begin. I typically prefer not to do that, but here we are. Firstly, I think it's a very good reflection of the work we did in Banff, and I thank administration and our consultant for so carefully recording what was discussed over the period of 2.5 days. I think it captures some very long and involved discussions very well. I wonder firstly about the photograph. It is a pre-fire photograph, I think, and I wonder if that's appropriate. I just raised that. I don't know about the gear to represent financial stability or whatever that particular subheading is. Under our values, I comment only on the one ethical, and I mean, I agree those are the values we came up with, but it seems to me that what we landed on was that we will make decisions in a manner the public can trust. It's more about the process than about the results. And we develop trust through practices and processes. And so I would only suggest that that particular value be reworded to say that we will make decisions in a manner the public can trust, rather than decisions that they can trust. On the strategic priorities, the next page, I found some sensitivity about navigating trade-offs, which is one way to put it, but I think it's about balancing priorities. So I thought there might be room for a nuanced change of wording there. And again, the financial stewardship with a gear, I'm not sure that that is necessarily understandable. Now the more difficult one, we go down a couple of pages to climate and emergency preparedness. We have the phrase transition from recovery to long-term resilience. There's another element, I think, in climate and emergency preparedness, which is not resilience, but sort of a more resistive built environment. So resilience, I think, applies certainly to the people in our community. They can be resilient, and they have been incredibly resilient. But we're also looking at opportunities to build better. But a building can be more resistive to fire, but that's not the same as resilience. Resilience to me means the ability to bounce back. And a properly constructed building might repel flames, but I'm not sure that it's resilience in the same sense. So there might be another word that we can add to resilience. And then under the governance and organizational excellence, again, I just go back to my first comment there. We talk about investing in practices and processes which support high quality decision making, and that should be reflected in that ethical value. It's about the processes that lead to the high quality decision makings rather than the decisions themselves. And finally, under financial stewardship, I find it a little bit awkward in our strategic priorities to adopt other strategies. We have a strategy to adopt a strategy. I think that might be, this is for financial understanding, might be better worded simply to say that we will communicate financial information clearly, transparently, and in easily intelligible formats or something like that, rather than to adopt a strategy. I think we just want to be clear that our strategy is to communicate financial information as clearly as we possibly can. Those are all of my comments. I just leave those for council. Any other comments?
Maybe we should change the gear to a dollar sign.
Councillor Waxer?
The one thing I thought about was looking at community connection. I might have started with one of the other areas of social supports, cohesion and belonging, or community spaces. I feel like it's a little bit disconnected, going from foster belonging and connection across the community, going to improve transportation systems. I think it makes it more clear if it's at the end instead of at the first one. It you start to think about it that way, but I think I found it a bit disconcerting.
Thank you for that. I would agree. Councillor Hall?
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I agree with you on the navigating trade-offs portion, because it kind of sounds like we're giving something up to get something, and it is more about balancing those priorities. I know it's probably the same thing, but I think the wording does matter. And I really liked the sentence after visitor economy: provide and maintain the core services and infrastructure that enable the visitor economy. And I really appreciate the way this is worded, because it recognizes that we're not just supporting residents, but actively providing and maintaining the services and infrastructure that make the visitor economy possible. And I really did like how that was worded.
Councillor Melnick?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I do like the section on governance and organizational excellence, where we are focusing on our relationships so that we can move Jasper's priorities forward. It's not just working with other levels of government, it's working with other groups and other organizations that allow us to move forward on this area of focus.
Does anyone else have any burning issues? I mean, I'm happy just to walk through the issues that have been raised, and then we can confirm whether we want amendments and perhaps get through this today with a motion that adopts strategic priorities potentially as amended. Sorry, Mr. Giffen, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor Ireland, if it's helpful, I could walk council through. So as administration, we've been trying to capture the discussion. I could walk through council visually what I think I've heard, and where there's not clarity from administration about changes that you might like to see. So if that would be helpful, I could do that now. Okay. So again, appreciating that the strategic priorities can be presented in a variety of different ways and may show up in a variety of different formats. What I did here was a desire to change the photo to a post-fire photo, recognizing the current reality of the community. So that's understood. There was also, Mayor Ireland, you made the note about changing the icon around this financial stewardship. And so that's caught. I recorded it a couple places, and actually I noted that the final icon that's on that page is different than the one that's shown here. So we need to get some a change. And I heard Councillor Roger suggest that maybe that idea of replacing the gear with a dollar sign, would make a better, clearer picture. So changing that icon was another item that I heard. Under the values section, Mayor Ireland, I heard you talk about the process. And I believe I heard you say something that would read, we apply consistent principles, declare conflicts transparently, and make decisions in a manner the public can trust. So the addition there is in a manner. This is one area where I'm not clear. There was a couple of you mentioned the idea about navigating trade-offs as a something that you were thinking about, but I didn't hear what should be changed or what it should be changed to. So maybe I'll pause here so we could have some discussion on that. Is it about, what was council's intent for those of you that raised this?
So my suggestion when I raised that was to replace navigating trade-offs with balancing competing priorities. And for the same reason as Councillor Hall said, it trade-off sounds just a little base.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Ireland. So the way I would capture that, again, showing this so everybody on council is seeing how administration is recording that. There we go. So to strike out navigating trade-offs and replace that with balancing competing priorities. Again, changing the icon for financial stewardship. I heard the discussion in the community connection about moving the mobility and access to be on the list lower. So that's simply a reordering. I didn't hear any comments on the housing section. On the climate and emergency preparedness, there was a discussion that about the, and I will say the priorities are the things administration uses. Really, it's the bullet points that administration uses in our RFDs and where we assess things. But this should reflect the language that council wants to have. So this idea of transitioning from recovery to long-term resilience, I heard an and, but I didn't understand what and what. We do talk about adaptation. And so I think that if we're speaking about climate, the idea of climate adaptation is that physical things and infrastructure need to change in order to respond to a changing climate. And so that's a concept around climate adaptation that may not get to the point that you were raising, Mayor Ireland. But it was the closest I could think of, a transition from recovery to long-term resilience and adaptation. I don't know if that meets the intent that you had or if there's something else that folks would suggest.
Go ahead, Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. Back to navigating trade-offs for balancing competing priorities. I wonder if something like to enable thoughtful, balanced decisions might be a little softer. Like even though we're taking out navigating trade-offs, we still have a competing in there, which I think might come off as competition, and maybe enabling thoughtful, balanced decisions might, these are just my thoughts, but might be getting the same thing, but in a little softer way.
Go ahead, CA will give it.
Mayor Ireland at the risk. But, I will say, and I think we had this discussion at the strategic priority session. There is something to be acknowledged about the fact that if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. I think we heard our facilitator say that at least once. And the decisions that council faces explicitly do seek to balance off competing priorities. Like the priority of low cost and low taxes I think everybody around this table would agree that's a good and worthwhile priority and that we see often at the council table, is in competition with high quality services that are available as needed. And so there is some balancing or trade-off to be had there. I can appreciate the desire to find the right kind of language, but just a little bit of an observation. One of the key tasks that all of you have to do is balance things that are not always easy to achieve both at the same time. Call those trade-offs, call those competing priorities. Maybe there's some other way to describe that, but it certainly is a core thing that council does pretty regularly.
We can come back to that. You were working through and sorry.
Yeah, Mayor Ireland, the only one, and so we were discussing this transition from recovery to long-term resilience. I'd suggested and adaptation. I don't know if that meets the intent.
I would be happy with that. It just recognizes that there's a social component and a built component.
And then the final areas, so governance and organizational excellence. I don't believe I heard an endorsement of some of the ideas there, but I don't believe I heard recommendations for changes. Economic health, again, I think an endorsement of some of the ideas that are there, but not any recommended changes. And then in financial stewardship, of course, this is where I noticed that we've got a different icon on this page, so maybe we could use this. We'll settle on that. I think the hand with a fiscal symbol or financial symbol is probably the best one. But specifically to the priorities under financial understanding, this idea about adopting a strategy within a strategy. So that could be worded to say financial understanding. Clearly and simply communicate the facts around our finances. So if
I raised it, I would be happy with that. Just tell them what we're going to do rather than adopt a strategy.
So Mayor Ireland and Councillor, if I've captured everyone's intent, now we all know what administration was hearing. So if you choose to amend the strategic priorities as discussed, we'll all know what we discussed.
Councillor Waxer.
My eye keeps being drawn back under governance and organizational excellence. And unfortunately, I don't have a alternate suggestion yet, but under relationships, it just sounds a little harsh. Nurture relationships that advance the community's interest. I certainly agree that we must do that, but it almost requires a bit of, I'm wondering if anybody else feels the need for softening it a bit. We must nurture those relationships, but we wouldn't necessarily drop people once they're not in, or a group once they're not of value to us. But it might be fine as it is. And sorry, I also wondered if we've kind of, although it's up in engagement, we haven't really talked about relationships with residents, but I guess we have under engagement.
My response, I suppose, Councillor Waxer, is that I think nurturing relationships that advance the community interest can be the strategic priority. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't have other relationships, but again, if everything's a priority, nothing is. And so we have to focus on those that are meaningful to the community. And I agree that in terms of fostering a relationship with our residents, engagement is the avenue to do that.
I didn't feel strongly, but my eye kept going back to it, so I thought I'd raise it in case anyone else had concerns.
Could say foster and maintain.
The informed dialogue might be the real critical part of that sentence, actually. I don't want to rush councillors. This is a tremendously important document for this council, and it will serve as the strategic priorities for an incoming council 3.5 years from now, roughly. So it is important, but on the other hand, we did tremendous work, I thought, to get to this stage. And so if it is a forum where we are happy with the amendments that CAO Given has walked us through, I would certainly entertain a motion that council approve or adopt the strategic priorities as amended. Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would make that motion that council adopt the strategic priorities as amended at today's council meeting, reflecting those changes in the document prepared by CAO Given.
Thank you for that motion. Councillor Melnick, is there any debate? All right, I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And so thank you again, Mr. Given, and your team that put this together, and our consultant, Ms. Lawrenson. It was a very useful expenditure of council's time, I thought. Agenda item 7, notices of motion. There are none listed. No one raised any at the opening of the meeting, so I take it there are no notices of motion to present. Councillor reports. Deputy Mayor Frechette.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Island. Yes, I attended and chaired the Community in Bloom committee on March 10th, where we've introduced an additional member to our committee, and we'll be meeting again on the 20th of March, this Friday, 7:30 in the morning. Also at the Community Futures, I participated in a 3-hour virtual training session on lending on the 10th of March. 12th of March, I attended a virtual strategic loan management seminar as well.
Thank you for that, Deputy Mayor Frechette. Any other reports? Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. Last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I took part in an online course for the Land and Property Rights Tribunal as a new member for Assessment Board Review. It was very interesting. and 3 full days online, which is a lot, but I did learn a lot. Also this morning, all of council took part in a transit workshop with Director Donaldson.
Other reports? Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And similar to Councillor Deputy Mayor, pardon me, Frechette, I did also participate in a Community Futures educational course on the Thursday night, the 5th of March, and brings me down to 3 courses remaining out of the battery of courses that are available.
Councillor Waxer.
I attended an online FCSSAA meeting, a board meeting on Friday, and later in the afternoon spent some time at Alpine Summit in my role as Evergreen's representative.
Thank you for that. If there are no other reports, we have a list of upcoming events. Are there any events upcoming not on the list that should be drawn to council's attention? All right. If there are not, agenda item 10. Councillor Hall, you wish to make a motion that there being no further business, the regular meeting of March 17th, 2026 be adjourned at 3:41 p.m.?
I do wish to make that motion.
All those in favor? I didn't see Councillor Rogers' hand go up. There are none opposed. That is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you all who watched on our Zoom platform through it all, and those who will watch later on our YouTube channel.